Hello and welcome to today's episode and this week's episode of Modesty's Monday Motivation Series. This is episode number 24. Today we are going to be continuing on our Being Self-Employed series where we've been talking about being self-employed, and last week we started talking about the operational realities of being self-employed. In essence, the different hats you put on as a self-employed person. Okay, so we're going to be continuing on that route today. And last week we spoke about the first five because I promised I was going to give you 10 operational realities. So we discussed the first five last week, and today we're going to be discussing the remaining five. So the first five operational realities we talked about last week, we talked about, your roles in sales, your roles in accounting, your roles in marketing, your roles in raising the capital required for your business, making it clear to you what you expect to encounter as a self-employed person. So today we're going to be talking about the remaining five operational realities of being self-employed. And before I jump straight into that, I just need to, acknowledge the fact that over the past week, the talk in the UK has been about self-employed people because the government rolled out plans to support the employed individuals throughout this COVID-19, season, and there appeared to be nothing for the self-employed people. So it looks like we are an endangered species. So because of the outcry of the self-employed and those who are sympathizers of the self-employed, the government kind of, rushed into some kind of announcements last week, which we welcome and we say thank you for remembering us finally. But then we still have concerns about the provisions made for the self-employed. But then something is still better than nothing. So I am appreciative and grateful for what the government has put in place. But then, because there are a few flaws in there, here and there, that I guess we've got to deal with that. All right, so that's a topic for another day. If I need to, dissect what the government has provided for the self-employed, how adequate it is, and how it compares to the package of the employed people, it's something that we'll spend the whole day talking about. But today I want to focus on the remaining five operational realities of being self-employed. First, number six. So we've talked about the first five last week. So number six, operational reality that I need you to know and to know about is the reality about around customer service. You see, every business exists because of a customer or a client. The moment you decide to become a business person, become self-employed, the first question you should be asking yourself is, who am I serving? Who are my buyers? Who are my clients? And who are my, customers? The moment you understand who these people are, then you begin to build a framework of, number one, how to attract them. Secondly, how to satisfy them. And number three, how to keep them. Right? That becomes your focus the moment you identify who they are. It then means that the framework of customer service in your business is your full responsibility. Whether you are there or not, you take responsibility for the way your customers are treated, whether in your presence or in your absence. Because the culture of customer service was designed by you, was enabled by you, was created by you. So anybody who's representing you in that business is basically doing what you would have done if you were there. Remember, before you even employed anybody in that business, you were the first person in that business and you were the one dealing with the customers from day one. So it is then left for you to decide how your customers are treated. So if anybody else is coming in to work with you in your company, it is your responsibility to tell them how you want your customers treated. You do not absolve yourself of that responsibility and saying, hey, it's somebody else's responsibility. No, they are your clients. They are your customers. Do you know some people still board Virgin Atlantic because of Richard Branson. Some people still buy Apple products because of Steve Jobs. Some people still buy Microsoft because of Bill Gates. What does that tell you? That the person at the epicenter of the business and the customer service and the service quality is still the person who initiates all the processes. So you've got to wear the customer service hat on and decide how your customers are going to be treated and be ready to take responsibility for that. If your customers don't get this full service that they have been promised or the quality of product that they have been promised, you who owns the business take responsibility for that. I find it funny when some business owners come and there's a problem and there's a dispute, between their company and a customer, a client, and they absolve themselves of the responsibility and they start blaming their staff or blaming, their contractors or anything. Forget about that. The first thing a self-employed person does is to take responsibility for their customers and the outcome of any transaction that comes out of that business between them and the customer. So, what do you have to bear in mind? Number one, spend time on rapport. When you are acquiring your customers, the first 5 minutes you spend with a customer, especially if it's a new customer, is very, very critical and very, very vital. That first 5 minutes you spend building rapport. It's not just straight into business. You find a common ground that you can discuss, you can talk about, you can just make the customer feel comfortable. You are not trying to be unprofessional. What you're trying to do is to break every barrier that will make the customer not open up to you and not feel comfortable around doing business with you. When you break that barrier and the customer flows straight freely into your terrain, the customer feels safe in that zone. And then you begin to educate the customer and you begin to speak to the customer. That's rapport building with customers. I like treating my customers as my friends personally because that's where I operate most. I like cracking jokes, but I know where to draw the line between cracking jokes and doing business. I like making my customers feel very comfortable. Sometimes I spend time on the phone talking to them about things that are unrelated to business. And the moment they find themselves in that comfort zone, the business side of things can be taken care of very easily. Customer acquisition also is around word of mouth. If you treat one customer well, that one brings you another customer. What does it do? It reduces the cost of your marketing because the cost of acquiring a new customer is more expensive than retaining the one that you have. So customer retention makes your business cost effective. Okay? Customer service does not end before you acquire the customer. The service you render to the customer before acquiring them, during the business, and after sales, after service, customer treatment is very, very critical and very crucial in terms of survival of that business. So in terms of customer service, you build the culture, you establish the framework and the environment, you take responsibility for it, and you make sure your customers are retained. I was speaking to a friend of mine who also runs a business, and I said to him, the worst thing you can do is to give your customer a reason to taste your competition's service or product. Don't even give them a reason to do that. If they have any reason to do that, they hardly come back, especially if they find that there is something on the other side that wasn't very present on your own side. And they are finding out that new thing because it's a new experience to them. Before they realize how bad or how good that one is, you've lost them already. So you've lost revenue. They might eventually come back to you first at the end of the day, but they don't always do. So whatever you can to retain and keep your existing customers, do that. It pays and it's more cost effective than acquiring new ones. The second hat you've got to wear as self-employed here is the hat of administration. Now, I don't know if you've heard about the 80-20 rule. Yeah, 80% of what we do, especially at what we do in our business as mortgage brokers. 80% of what we do is admin work, and 20% of it is spending time with the customer and customer facing. So once we finish the fact finding and we do, get all the information we need from the client and get the documents we need, from then on till the end of the mortgage process, it's all admin work. Admin, admin, admin. So imagine spending 80% of your time doing those things and only 20% of your time facing customers and talking to customers. Do you enjoy doing that? If you do not, you might consider going into business in partnership with somebody who enjoys doing admin, and the person focuses on admin while he focuses on the income producing tasks, like going out there, getting customers and bringing customers into the business. Or if you cannot go into partnership, or you don't want to go into partnership, you want to retain the business on your own, the first person you should be considering to employ in your business is an admin person. I learned this from my online hero in the mortgage service industry, Gary Das. He always tells us as mortgage brokers, the first person you should consider employing in your business is an admin person, because then it takes a whole lot of work off your table, and then you are left with what you know how to do best, which is offer mortgage advice. So focus on the things you know how to do best and let people who are more comfortable doing admin work do the admin work. And then what you've got to do is, if you cannot employ the person in-house, you can outsource. There are virtual PAs these days and virtual admin people who can stay in their homes and run your admin work, because most of the work we do these days are online, and they are, documents are stored in cloud-based formats and all that. So technology allows a lot to happen these days. So I have outsourced my admin work. I've outsourced it to an external person to say, hey, you do the admin work and I pay you, and I pay them for the work they do. So it then means that it's an ad hoc arrangement. When I need the person, they come in, they do the work, I pay them, they go. So I don't take on the full responsibility of employing and paying them every month, whether or not they work for me. If that's the way you prefer to operate, that's fine. But I'm just saying that there are options. The key word here is delegation. All right. So your admin work, if you cannot delegate your admin work and you want to take it on yourself, then you must know that it's going to be a struggle finding a balance between the non-income producing task and the income producing task. One of them will suffer, because if you spend them more time doing your admin work, you will spend less time seeing clients and generating income. But if you spend more time seeing clients and generating income and less time doing the admin work, because you've taken care of that, you've sorted that out, then you've set the business up for success. So that's one of the hats you've got to put on, the administration hat. So write down the non-income producing tasks, write down the income producing tasks, choose which one you're good at, focus on that, and outsource the rest. And then you see how quickly things change around you. Now, the other hat you've got to put on as a self-employed person is around finances. Finances. This is very, very important and very, very critical. Because if you do not make the right financial decisions as far as your business is concerned, then the business is doomed. And last week we were talking about accounting, but your accounting is different from your financial management. Financial management skills are key to the survival of any business, because what it means is that those skills enable you to allocate your scarce financial resources effectively and efficiently. So you allocate finances to marketing, you allocate finances to administration, you allocate finances to professional services, you allocate finances to transportation, you allocate finances for logistics, for stationaries and all the rest of them. You allocate finances for wages and how much you take home yourself, how you pay yourself, and how you pay, your staff and other professional engagements that you have. So every facet, if your rent and your energy bills and all the rest of them, these are financial allocation decisions that you've got to make, which puts your business on the, in the right frame that it should be. So financial management skills is very key. And one key job that you've got to do and do very well in the financial management skill is budgeting. Budgeting is all about financial allocation of scarce resources. So if you get your budgeting right and you budget appropriately, and then you financially forecast based on reality, on expectation, and on historical performances of what your financial stand is going to be like in the business, you're doing very well. But listen, financial management skills are rare for business people to acquire. So if you don't have that skill, you can either acquire it by learning, or you outsource it to professionals who can help you make those financial decisions based on the information you have provided them. Some people, their accountants act as their financial advisors and their tax advisors. Some people have accountants and they have financial advisors separate because they like separating both, the two things. But it's a decision that you've got to make. How you've got to, if you look at issues like financial projection, how much sales are we going to be making in the next, 1 year or 2 years? And how much of those sales will be profits? What percentage of profits is that? What percentage of it are we going to allocate to dividends payments and all that? These are financial decisions that are made. So that's why when you come into big organizations, they have accountants and they have chief financial officers. They separate both roles because both roles are not the same thing. Your accounts presents a financial picture of your business and tells you what your business looks like financially. Your financial decision or your financial officer makes decision on what financial engagements the business will go into. For example, if you want to make investments, you have to analyze that investment, the return on that investment. Should I put money here or should I not? Should we buy this business or should we not? If you want to buy a van for your business, your financial decision making will not bother around, should I hire or should I buy or should I lease? These are financial decisions. They are different from your accounting decisions. So if you don't get these decisions right, if where you're supposed to hire an asset, you end up buying, you're tying up money. If where you're supposed to buy an asset, you end up hiring, you're missing out on an opportunity to build up your asset base. If where you're supposed to be leasing, you end up buying, you're making the wrong financial decision, you're tying up capital where it is not. So these are decisions that it has to be made based on empirical evidence and analysis that you have made, and then you have arrived at a decision. That is what financial management skills are all about. Robert Kiyosaki said that 3 key skills, management skills, that every business owner should have and should know are these: management of cash flow, management of people, and management of your time resources. So financial management is a key management skill you need to acquire. The next hat you need to put on as a self-employed person is around human resources management, HR management. There is a reason a lot of big companies have a department set aside for human resources. Because in every business, the most prized assets, no matter how sophisticated your machines and your computers are, the most prized assets in every business are its human resources, your human capital, the people that make the business. It is the people that make the business, not the machines, not those physical assets. So if you don't get that decision right around who should be involved in your business, around who should be part of your business, you are setting the business up for failure. Now, the first employee of every business is you, the business owner. So you set the tone on how the other members of the team are going to be treated. The way you treat yourself is the way you will set out for the human resources in that business will be treated. How do I reward myself? What I'm paying myself, is it enough for me? How do I treat myself as an employee of this business? And then you use that as a platform to set up how others are going to be treated. Now, Bear in mind that human resources have lots of legal implications. So you don't just take on staff and you think that they are slaves. The era of slavery is gone. So you've got to consider issues around um, statutory sick pay, their annual leaves, when they call in sick, how do you deal with that? Dismissals, penalties, punitive measures when people do wrong things and all that. There are legal implications around that. Can you deal with that? It's a question you've got to ask yourself. If you do not want to be dealing with it and you cannot deal with it, why don't you get a HR professional to help you do that? If your company is big enough and you've got employees. Now, if you're not big enough to employ people, but you still need a team around you, you can still outsource those services and they will become members of your team. You can outsource your legal services to a solicitor and that person becomes your legal advisor. Outsource your accounting to your accountant. Outsource your financial advice to a financial advisor. Your accountant becomes your accounting department. The financial advisor becomes your chief financial officer. The compliance person that is dealing with your compliance becomes your compliance officer. Yeah, the HR person that is looking after anybody else in your company becomes your HR department. The admin person or your virtual PA becomes your admin department. So you can have those departments working for you as part of your team without actually having them in your organization. But every one of them is doing a job for you. So if you need a legal advice, you call your solicitor. If you need a tax advice, you call your accountant. If you need admin work done, you contact. So you've got a team that you've assembled, and that's your HR sorted because it's all about the team. So you must make sure that you're selecting the best and you're working with the best. Recruitment is a key area of self-employment that you must not get wrong. When I started my business, I picked a very, very bad accountant initially. But because I was a rookie in my business, this guy was doing such a shoddy job and such a poor job for me. And then at the end of the day, I realized that I was paying a lot of penalties to the HMRC every time I keep missing the deadline for submitting my accounts. And I kept paying penalties. And I was paying for services that I wasn't enjoying. And at some point I just woke up and I was like, am I under a spell or something? This guy's not, he's acting like he's doing me a favor. He's actually my accountant. I sacked him. And do you know what I noticed? When I did my tax return myself, I did a better job than the accountant was doing. And I even began to understand how my accountants were supposed to be doing their job. I did a better job than him. So I sacked him and I got another accountant. And the ones I can do on my own, I give the accountant to do. But the ones I can do on my own, I do it. Because I am trained in finance and business. And accounting is part of my training. I'm not just it's just that I'm not a qualified or chartered accountant, but I know the basics that I need to do. But if you are not privileged to know those basics, recruitment is very important. Look at personalities when you recruit people who want to work for you. Don't just focus on the certificates. Okay? There are certain areas where you need professionals and there are certain areas where you don't need professionals. Where you don't need professionals and you are ready to train somebody, look for an apprentice, explore apprenticeship, explore internship. There are interns, people looking for work study opportunities, students looking for internship opportunities just to get experience. You can take advantage of that if you are ready to train them and teach them and give them the experience they're looking for. A lot of people have risen to the highest rank in a company from working in that company as an apprentice. They didn't have to go to school to do that. If you were to recruit them, you would have been looking for certificates. But look for personalities, not just certificates and people who brandish qualifications and they cannot really practice what they said they have studied. So that's around human resources and assembling the right team and dealing with the legal implications of that because it comes with legal responsibility. The next hats you will be wearing will be compliance and legal, which is, the last and the final one I want to talk about, compliance and legal. Now, that I joined these two together does not mean that they are really one and the same thing. It's just the interlinked nature of those that made me join them together. Compliance and legal. Now, in the UK here, a lot of sectors, business sectors are regulated. A lot of business sectors are being performed under strict regulation. And that regulation comes with compliance. So you are expected to comply within a specified code of conduct. That code of conduct is what separates you from the ordinary person out there. For example, in the financial services sector, as a mortgage broker, we operate in a strictly regulated financial environment. There are strict codes of conduct that mortgage brokers are supposed to operate within. If we do not operate within that, we are hit with heavy fines, which is why mortgage brokers, the advice we give to our clients, are expected to be above board, so that the client is paying for a service that they know nobody else can give them except somebody who is qualified to do it. So you've got to obtain the qualification first of all, and the qualification standards are tough and are high. So if you meet that standard, everybody's expecting you to be above board to offer certain level of service, and that level of service is what the compliance is all about. So if you want to go into business or you want to go into any kind of sector, find out what the compliance environment is like. Can you meet it? Can you meet the requirements? Can you get the qualification? Are you interested in getting the qualification that makes you meet that compliance requirements? If you are not ready to do that, then don't delve into it. But you need to know, you need to be aware of what the compliance regulation requirements are. If you want to become an estate agent, you know that you have to comply with anti-money laundering regulations in this country. And not just an estate agent, even mortgage brokers, banks, financial institutions, solicitors. You see, the anti-money laundering regulation is a compliance requirement that cuts across different spheres. So there are, intersectorial compliances that people need to adhere to. GDPR, for example, it means you have a responsibility of handling people's private information professionally. These are compliance issues you have to be aware of. If you want to go into the construction or building industry, there are compliance issues. Depending on whether you are an electrician, you're a gas engineer or whatever, you've got to be sure that you are compliant. If you do not comply, you pay the penalty, which is sadly what the truth is. So you've got to find out what the compliance environment is like, whether you can meet it, whether you've got interest in meeting it at all before you delve into that self-employed role. And then when you find that out, you have to design a way of meeting that, either by way of qualification, or you still need to employ a compliance person who will now be liaising between you and the regulatory bodies to update your compliance levels. You see, I tap into an already existing mortgage brokerage firm, which I partner with. So we already have a compliance person that is outsourced. So every of my mortgage advice goes through that compliance conveyor belt. And the compliance person comes, looks at the files and documents and the advice are given, and they certify that's good. And it is on that basis that they can now defend the decision. If, for example, the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority guys, comes into the office and they decide to audit what we've done, and they pick up a client and they say, why did you give this advice to this particular client? And I should be able to defend that on the compliance level because, I offer that advice for a particular reason. So that's what compliance is all about. What about legals? Now, every business you are going into, you have to be aware of the legal responsibility, your liability, your legal battles that you potentially are going to fight if anything goes wrong. Therefore, the important thing you've got to do is to find the right amount of cover that you need, because some of these legal issues, they come up when you least expect them. So why I emphasize on cover is because you cannot be careful enough. Sometimes you think you're very careful, but then somehow something happens, especially if somebody who is working for you is careless and they plunge you into some kind of legal mess that you have to struggle to get out of, or even if it's as a result of your own, negligence or mistake, because mistakes do happen. So what kind of cover do you have in place? That's why there is something called public liability insurance. Somebody could come to my office and there's a chair, or there might be a cable on my office, and the person trips over that and falls and maybe bangs their head somewhere and sustains injury or hurts their knee. They can take me to court. They can start making claims against my company for injury, and I will have to pay. But if I have public liability insurance, that payment comes out of the insurance pocket. If there is any legal cost that comes with it, it takes care of that because I'm covered. There is also something called professional indemnity insurance, which means if by mistake I give the wrong advice in terms of when I'm offering my mortgage services, and somebody takes my mortgage product and doesn't find it good enough, or something that meets their needs, they can make claims against me. And if I cannot defend my decision, and the authorities say I must have to compensate the person, my professional indemnity insurance indemnifies the person. Indemnifies means restoring the person to the position they were before that loss occurred, if they have lost income or they have lost financial means or anything. So they will be indemnified. That's why it's professional indemnity insurance. And then there are other forms of legal cover that you can also take to cover yourself. So that's why you have to be aware that you have to put on that legal hat before you get involved in self-employed businesses or roles. So, folks, I hope this has been useful for you. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you found that useful. If you have, please give us your feedback. Let us know how you feel, and let us know what you think about this. And we'll continue throughout this COVID-19 period and quarantine season to bring you that education, to bring you that knowledge right to your doorsteps and in your living rooms. So thank you very much for being part of this. Thank you very much for listening and for watching. And thank you so much for your support and for everything. And remember, a lot of what we are doing here on Facebook Live, we are now uploading them on YouTube. So you can go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Search for my name, Ikenna Ume Izudike, on YouTube, and subscribe to my channel. You can see, backlogs of other episodes that we've done in the past on YouTube, and our mortgage series as well on that channel. And I'll keep bringing more content to you. See you again next week, Monday, and have a very lovely week. Please stay safe, maintain social distancing, stay at home if you can, and save lives. Your life is very important to me, and most importantly to your family. You take care and goodbye.